On this week's episode of The Smoke Break, we talk with comedian and podcaster Hewitt Pagenstecher about working towards greater fulfillment and more of a work-life balance. We also talk with musician and comedian MamaFi about resentment and accountability. Episodes released on all platforms Mondays at 6 p.m. And welcome to The Smoke Break. We are here every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. on Shady Pines Radio, as well as Pretty Dope Xperience Radio. I'm your host, your old pal Zane, here with Zoe Schwartz.
Hey.
And Hewitt Pagenstecher.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
So Hewitt is a comedian in the Portland comedy scene. He's also does his own podcast, which was
the Urban Network podcast and the Giggles Gone Wild podcast too.
God, look at you. Look at you. Yeah, definitely. So if you get a chance, please go check those out. This week, we are talking about working towards a more fulfilling life. Is everybody doing that? Does everybody feel like they're doing that?
We were just saying that, aren't we kind of always doing that, even if we're not actively doing it?
Even if you're not doing it, you're like kind of like trying to pretend like you are. Like,
Yeah.
The end goal, usually, right?
Yeah.
But you're on like a specific like spurt of doing it, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm definitely trying to live. It's like always hard to balance, right? Like I know I kind of do a lot of things right between work and comedy and like, producing, and really value my friendships. And it's easy to get caught up in like any one of those things, to be like, wow, I really need to like push hard at comedy, and then you end up being like, wow, maybe I haven't been spending a lot of time with my family and friends, or I really need to like work hard and like, you know, be able to like save up money, and then it's like, wow, I haven't had a doctor's appointment in a while. Like, I feel like for years, for the longest time, it's like, shit, when am I gonna get it right, you know? And I'm still not there, but that's what I'm working towards, is like, okay, I want to definitely, you know, be still maintaining the relationships that I care about, and like growing in my career, and like being healthy when I can.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm working on.
Well, I definitely think like having a more overall like balance is kind of the thing that allows you to have a more fulfilling life. What's something that you feel like has recently showed up for you that you feel like is sign of that fulfillment?
Nice. So I think I've been managing my time a little better, and I think I would attribute that a lot to sobriety, which is like kind of new for me.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
How new is that?
I like quit drinking and smoking weed like mid-January.
Okay. Yeah.
And since then, I've noticed that I've been able to kind of get a lot more done in my day, you know, that I've gotten better sleep.
Yeah.
That, you know, I seem to be, you know, doing kind of better work and meeting tasks better and deadlines better for my work, and, you know, kind of going above and beyond and hitting the gym more. So I feel like just having that extra energy throughout the day is something that sobriety has helped create for me. And then that's kind of enabled me to help kind of balance more things in my life at this point in time. And it's always a process for all of us, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Zoe, what does that make you think of?
Makes me think that I probably need to quit drinking. Not that it's like a huge issue, but just like thinking about how much, just that little bit that I do when I do have a day where I'm tired, like today or whatever, after, like I'm just thinking, I've been thinking for a while, like I should just, like, not that it's a huge issue, but for me, but just that I think, like you're saying, it gives you so much more energy and time.
And it's not even like, doesn't even have to be a huge issue. Like for me, I felt like I was killing it, and I really enjoyed it, and sometimes still miss like getting cocktails or drinks with friends, and getting a beer at lunch or whatever. But I think I was like, I need to try something new, because I've tried the whole getting kind of crossfaded lightly in moderation, like most days out of the week. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like, that's fun. And I'm like, okay, I'm still doing cool stuff, but I'm like, you know, I just need to, if I could give myself even 10 or 15% more activity or bandwidth in my energy, you know, then that could be the difference between, you know, me reaching a new level as a comedian, or being able to like have a little more freedom, like financially, you know. And I feel like I just wanted to try, you know, because I've done like long sobriety breaks prior to this, but this is my first time really doing something. I'm like coming up on 3 months this.
I was gonna say it's almost 3 months. Yeah. Good job.
Yeah. No,
so I was just, for me, it was like, I just need to try something new, because, you know, it's like, I know last year I felt like I was killing it, or I was doing well in comedy and satisfied with a lot of those experiences. Yeah. But I was like, okay, but I need to be making more money.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
No, I totally understand. Like I would say something that like helps me with like fulfillment is like making those small changes and then seeing how it affects everything.
Yeah.
You know, because like I like what you said about it doesn't have to be a big problem.
Yeah.
You know, like if it's just something like, for example, I really like smoking pot. It makes me very paranoid and it makes things that are simple. Like the way I like to describe it is like alcohol gives you confidence to do things you've never done and weed takes away confidence from things you've done a million times.
Yeah, I've heard you say
so
that
I'm
before.
like, I'm just adding this extra level of like anxiety to something that just didn't need to have it.
Yeah.
So
I remember so many times it's like so easy to like smoke weed after like an open mic or something.
Yeah.
And it's like fun, like having those experiences, but I almost would always regret it, like going back into the open mic and just being surrounded by people and being like, what am I doing
like they're all looking at me.
What am I saying right now?
Yeah. Like, well, and for a while I tried to like, you know, draw it back a little bit because I was just like, okay, well, maybe I'll just smoke after. And that just moved the paranoia to after my set, you know, because like I didn't want to get high before it because I swear to God, I walk up there when I'm stoned and I'm just like, have I said anything funny ever? And it's like the amount of doubt I already have is like a million. But I can definitely say that like making those small changes is the thing that helps me feel fulfilled. Is there any small changes that you feel like you've made, Zoe, that have been more fulfilling?
Yeah, I feel like I like was really out of balance like when I was in school like last year because I was just like felt like I didn't have the time to be balanced at all. And I feel like I like once I graduated, I really started to like be able to explore comedy, like do comedy more. And then I felt like I was getting a balance and I'm starting to feel like I'm getting a little out of balance lately. So it's but I think that's like what we were saying is that it's always kind of this like recalibrating or recentering yourself. Like sometimes you'll have a good time and then you'll kind of realize, oh, maybe I'm getting a little off. Yeah. So I just think like right now my house is really messy and like I've just been.
It is very messy. No, I'm totally kidding.
For me, it's dirty. It's not messy. Like I want a deep clean. I feel like I've been saying that for like 3 weeks and I haven't done it.
Yeah.
And like I've just had, but it's because I've been busy with comedy and like producing shows and went out of town, So yeah. So I think.
Well, I kind of like what you said about cleaning because for me, I feel like that's like that kind of creates like a sense of fulfillment where it's like the space that I'm waking up to doesn't feel like the same chaos I went to bed to.
Yeah.
You know what they say is like your home is like could be a reflection of like your life.
Yeah.
It always is. No, it's like always is.
So it's for me.
Well, I'm getting kicked out of my home, so I don't know what that means.
Yeah, and it's kind of like even doing small things like that, like whether it's like just like cleaning your room, reorganizing it, making your bed. It's like just getting in the habit of like just doing things like the small things. I feel like that ends up translating to bigger things in general, right? Like
totally.
Something that that I've been doing, like I started around the same time as sobriety. I'm not going to talk about this for too long, but definitely doing like the whole cold showers,
and,
like,
showers.
Ice bath things.
I've been kind of trying those.
I'm curious. Yeah, what has it been like for you? What have you been experiencing from it?
So I've gotten used to it, and I do like 3-minute cold showers, and sometimes these like 4-minute like ice baths, where I just like fill up a tub with cold water and put a couple bags of ice in there and just like set a timer.
Yeah.
This is just separate from your normal bathing behaviors. This is like in addition.
Yeah, because I want to shower in the morning. You can't clean yourself in a bath. So normally
or with cold water, really. Cold water.
Yeah. But so if I do a cold shower in the morning, which I normally do, like I did this morning, I started off warm, wash myself, and then have my phone by the shower. So I press the alarm that's at like 3 minutes and like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And then I do the rest of it cold.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, one of the benefits is it's I feel like it helps with willpower because it's like an uncomfortable situation that you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
So besides the other benefits it gives, like increased like immunity
and circulation, right?
And blood and helping with your blood circulation, and it reduces anxiety and depression and things like that.
Inflammation too, I think.
Yeah, and it increases mood or improves mood. But it's just also like practicing just doing something that you don't want to do, and I feel like that's translated to like being better about procrastinating, for instance, because it's just like jumping into that ice, that cold plunge, jumping into that cold shower.
Yeah.
It could just be like diving into like a project that you've been putting off for a while.
Yeah.
It's like getting comfortable doing something that isn't going to be comfortable at first and just being like, I'm just going to do it anyway. Fuck it.
But it has a lot of benefits.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that like, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean I'm not going to benefit from it. It's just maybe like an uncomfortable 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that because I've been kind of doing, I didn't know if I was doing it right because I have been doing like the hot shower and then I'm just like, fuck it, just turn it down, you know? And then I've been like doing that, but I very similarly feel the same way where it's just like, I don't want to do this, but I know it'll make me feel better, which is like everything in my life right now.
Yeah, totally.
It's funny. Why does life have to work like that?
I don't know,
it's like,
man.
all the uncomfortable things is kind of what reaps benefits down the road or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of them. Yeah. I think it's also about relating to, like, thinking about it differently too. Like, or finding a way to do those things that isn't like totally horrible, you know, like with exercise, like finding a kind of exercise that you actually like versus like forcing yourself to do some workout that you hate every day, you know? So I think like, you're never going to love it, but you could find like, you know, you could
comfort in the discomfort.
Yeah. Like find ways to enjoy things that are challenging but not just like suffering through an hour workout and hating it the whole time.
Totally. Yeah. I've been doing like spin classes sometimes.
Okay. You're all speaking of suffering through an hour workout.
And which are great because it's like you don't even need the discipline to do. I mean, you have to get yourself in the room
because there's someone yelling at you.
And then you're locked in there for an hour.
They lock you in.
You're locked in there for no one leaves.
They drop a giant wooden.
Till the hour's done.
Is it actually locked?
It's not, but
okay. I was like,
it's locked by your own.
I'd have a panic attack. I like walked into exercise.
No, you just don't want to be like shamefully leave halfway through.
Oh, okay. So it's just shame that locks you in there.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Locked in a prison of shame on a bike.
The old shame prison.
Yeah. So it's like no one else is leaving. It's like the thing where it's like if you walk in an elevator and everyone's standing like in one direction, you're just going to stand in the same direction.
Yeah.
If everyone in there is just like on their bike for an hour, you're not going to be like, I'm not going to be a weirdo and only work out for a half hour. You know, that's a long time.
Yeah.
On its own.
Yeah. I'll just be a less weirdo and just have like a big bar of sweat up my butt crack when I'm done. That's less weird.
So something that I think that you were talking about is like being in the room with the people and that almost kind of motivating you. What do you feel like the effects of being in a group does for like your motivation?
I think I've always I feel like being around people that are doing the same thing motivates like most of us, right? And you know, and especially even comedy too.
Totally.
It's like you get inspired by so many comics and see people working hard and, you know, just even just like feed off their energy of creativity, you know, and drive and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you kind of feed off the energy of other people. Yeah.
And I think that applies to, you know, the gym too, and just being around, you know, writers if you're into writing, if you know, podcasters, if you guys talk to podcasters like we're talking.
Totally.
We did it. We did the thing. Yeah.
Oh, this is my camera.
One of them.
No, I think you know, it's so cliche, but it's like it's people say that you are like the 5 people you surround yourself with. Yeah. And I think you know, there's like that's not 100% accurate, but it's pretty true, right?
Yeah, so definitely.
We're all subconsciously, if not directly, influenced by the people that are around us. And so, you know, even if besides the fact that people are doing those things around you and you're like learning from them, you're just like kind of subconsciously taking information in, or they might.
Well, I feel like I got ADHD from Zoe just by like being on this podcast. She just by proxy.
He had it before. He's lying.
That's true.
That's why we get each other. I am a little scattered though. Hang out with me.
They're all good.
You're like, have you been hanging out with Zoe a lot? You've been like drinking all together. Like you've been talking really
contagious,
fast.
Turns out.
Can't help it.
No, that's I think that's really cool that you're able to take and reframe community in a way that like motivates you, because I feel like some people have a tendency to be like, oh, this person's doing better, I can't do as well as them, or why are they getting these things? And you're like, no, this person's doing well, and they weren't doing that well before. I could do better as well. Like just being able to like reframe it as an opportunity to grow instead of like being locked into you know, just almost competition. You know, like community over competition.
Yeah,
it's like almost great to, even when you're like, oh, this person's way better. It's like, it's good to be kind of humbled sometimes too, you know?
Definitely.
And be like, okay, you know, this roof or this ceiling just got raised a lot higher up, you know? And it's like, you know, that it just goes to show like how much room you have to grow as a person, or for me personally, you know? And that could be like scary and looming and discouraging, but it could also be like you could be inspired by what's possible,
Yes.
Yeah, that's a much better way to think about it too. Yeah, because like seeing other people's success as like inspiring and something to look forward to, and like that you have that much more space to grow versus seeing. We've talked about that before. Like, versus seeing it as like taking away from the amount of success that's available to all of us, right? Like that's a more limiting way of thinking about it.
There's people don't have cheat codes, you know what I mean? Like we're all humans here on this planet, so it's like just because if you see someone do something, it doesn't mean like you're able to do anything you put your mind to.
And you can do it in a different way too. Like you don't have to do it the way that like you can learn from other people's, but you can have a different path, I guess too. Like is another thing that I think is cool, seeing multiple paths to success.
Absolutely. All right, well, cool. We're gonna take a real quick smoke break. Take a real quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the smoke break. We're here every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. on Shady Pines Radio, as well as Pretty Dope Xperience Radio. And welcome back. So Hewitt, there was something that you brought up earlier. It kind of sounded a little bit about like work-life balance. That's a tricky one for me because I feel like I'm always excited to be doing more, but I forget that to be doing something somewhere means I can't be doing something somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts on work-life balance and kind of its importance to you?
I think the key is to identify like the things that you care about, and that could be like a dozen things for some of us, and the key is to be consistent with those, like consistency, and even if that could be like 10 minutes a week if that's what it needs to be, right? I feel like we could all make 10 minutes a week for something that we want to get better at, right? Like I know I've had that same issue where it's like something that I've always wanted to work on for a long time is like writing scripts and like screenplays, and that's been a big aspiration of mine. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm doing the podcast and producing these shows and trying to make my business work and maintain these relationships and exercise and stuff. And I'm like, I don't have time to write a script right now. But I think that's just an excuse because everyone and me especially, I think I could definitely carve out like at least like, a half hour or an hour some evening, and maybe that cuts into other time, but I think consistency is like the big thing, right? It's just making sure you're working on it a little bit. You don't have to be like, okay, how do I, divide my time amongst these things evenly? But even just like spending a couple minutes on it, like however often that is, as long as it's frequent, it's like, you're going to start thinking about it more naturally. Like when you're doing other things, when you're walking, when you're, commuting around or something, it's like, that's when it starts to like, it's like, a snowball, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you get like more inspired the more time you put into something, even if it's so small. So
yeah, I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Zoe, what does that make you think of?
I don't know. It made me think about like I don't know.
You're fine. I
had a thought and then I lost it. But
no, well, I
get so caught up in what people are saying. I'm all.
No, you're totally good. I guess what it makes me think of is like. I guess the next question I would ask would be like, do you feel like with work-life balance, do you feel like you're more off balanced because you're focusing on life or because you're focusing on work? And this is for both of you. Zoe, go ahead and go first. Let me know. And then Hewitt, you're next.
Right now or
sure.
In general? Okay.
Today.
I think right now probably, I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know that it's one or the other. I think maybe I'm just.
So you're just 100% balanced?
No, it's that I feel out of balance in both, I think a little bit. But I think that's also like just and that's something else I wanted to bring up too, is I think this is all, I think I agree with you. I think like being accountable for like how you work on things and all of that stuff is important. But I also think that we have like outside messages that come from like capitalism that make us feel like we're never doing enough. And I think that's important to address as well, because I think that's what I'm struggling with right now is like I probably am doing a lot.
Yeah.
I definitely could be more balanced though, just with like my well-being and my self-care. So that's definitely something like cleaning your house, exercising, those things I think are definitely like, but I think acknowledging that there is an outside system that tells us that we always have to be creating and always have to be building, and that can take away from our like healthy relationships with the things that we love. And I think there's important balance between that as well, like being pushed by that outside drive, but then also not letting that outside drive like make the thing that you love feel just like you're punishing yourself all the time, not doing it good enough,
Yeah, no, definitely.
Because I get to that spot all the time where I'm just like, it feels like everything I should be doing more of, and then I'm like not appreciating all the cool shit I'm doing because I'm just like,
that's
it should
the thing
be better.
I should be doing more of is appreciating the cool things I'm doing.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's like that's a balance that's important too, right?
It is. Yeah, it's like being kind of content too, and like. like happy too with where you are, right? Because I mean, this is a journey for all of us. So that means that where we're at isn't necessarily accomplished right now, but something that we should try to do is be content where we are.
Yeah.
So with work-life balance, I want to talk about kind of like what I feel like needs to be balanced, right? Because things that I think that go into like a fulfilling life would include like feeling healthy or doing things that improve your health, working on a passion or a project,
sure,
and nurturing and spending time with the relationships you care about, family and friends, loved ones.
Yeah.
Right. So I think all those three things are like essential and very like kind of important. And even if you're like, spending a lot of time with family and working on your health, you're still going to be like, well, there's definitely a project that I want to pick up. Or if you're killing it at a project and, working out a lot, you're like, well, I'm so lonely and I don't have any friends, you know? And I feel like, we don't want to, I feel like that there is a big message with like capitalism and stuff that you should always be, producing, and that's something that I'm so susceptible to and so inspired to do. But I think just for general happiness, it's like as long as you're working on even just one project you're passionate about, or one skill you're passionate about, that could even be your job, or even just like learning a skill while you're maintaining your friendships, and like just your own perception of yourself is that you're improving your health over time, or you're making actions to do so. I feel like that is kind of what leads to fulfillment, and those are the three things that you should try to be balancing, because those are, I feel like, the most like impactful things to us, is knowing that we're in good health, or we're working on that our loved ones know that we care for them and we're there for them, and that we're growing in ways that we want to grow.
I definitely think that's a really good kind of like baseline of like where to start if you feel like you're out of balance. But what's a question I asked earlier was, where do you feel like you're kind of off balance? Do you feel like you're putting more into work, more into life? You were to say that?
What's the area?
So I feel like the sleep portion, that's the fourth one. No, that's a good question, because I've been, let's see, I feel better than I have right now than I have in a long time. I feel better right now than I have in a long time about kind of, because for a long time I was pushing off my career or my money and like health while working on like comedy. And I feel like right now I've been better about my relationships and checking in with old friends.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's like a big thing too, is like to check in with friends, right? And just even send them a text or give them a call or make a plan. And that could be as infrequent or frequent as you want. But even if it's just like once every 2 years, it's like, it means a lot to that person.
Yeah, exactly. I've definitely had people hit me up after a while and just be like, oh, like you saw me and thought of me, or you saw this and thought of me. Like, I think that means a little something extra, because it's not like, it doesn't have to be, I feel like when it's like too frequent, then it feels like an obligation, where it's just like, oh my God, now like I don't mind checking in and being like, hey, how's everything going? But like as stressed as I am with everything that I have, like if we were to start a whole new conversation, and like as much as I like the depth of the conversations I have, having 17 of those all at the same time, fucking exhausting.
Exactly. And so actually I want to go back to your question too, and just answer it and be like, I think health is where I'm sorry, because I mentioned sleep, and that's totally in the health department.
I mean,
that's 100%.
Yeah.
But it's taking care of yourself, but you might be missing out in different areas.
Yeah. Like, so the sobriety has been awesome. Exercise, cold showers, all that. But it's like, I know I have doctor's appointments and dentist appointments that are overdue, and sleep that I need to catch up on. And so that's always a growing thing and like a priority, or it should be, right? I think that's one of the 3 pillars of my theory of what makes fulfilling life.
Yeah. Something that you were talking about made me think about like how I learned that there's like, I sort of have this, I think I learned about it too, but I also sort of have this like philosophy that I think, despite my thing I said about like the outside capitalism, I do think like what you're saying, I think we have like an innate desire or need to create things that matter and to connect with other people. And I think like what you're talking about makes me think about these like things that are natural about being humans. I think they've been exploited by capitalism, but I do think you're right. I think like we do need to produce things. We do need to be creative. We do need to have connections. And I think so in a certain way, when we slack on those things at the level of feeling like a productive human that's contributing to the people that we love and making the world around us better or more beautiful. Yeah, I think that is like a natural part of being a human. But like, I think that's a better way of thinking about it. It's like capitalism exploited that need within us. And that's where we go crazy with like I'm never doing enough.
And then that with the with like everyone being visible on social media, so it's like you end up comparing yourself to other people.
Yes,
right,
which is super healthy. Just for the record,
worst. Yeah, it makes you feel so bad.
So worse, right? Like when you're like, okay, well, if this person's doing all this stuff, I could be doing that too. But I think just like in general, just like knowing that you're like growing as a human, right? And that could be like, studying a language so you could finally take like that trip you've always wanted to take.
Yeah.
Or,
totally.
Doing your first like, taped comedy special or even your first 10 minutes, and just like having that be an achievement,
Yeah.
Or, running a marathon. I don't know, just like anything.
You're just saying things you did.
Having goals.
Things that you work up to and and that take time. But it's like once you put in that work to grow in some way, it's like those are some big moments for you that are not always tied to like relationships or health, but it's like those definitely fuel the fire of your soul.
Yeah, it's like personal fulfillment.
Yeah, it's like when you release an album, right? Like how gratifying is that?
That felt crazy. It felt crazy, but it was definitely like a moment that I should have, and I will next time, take a moment to just be like, holy crap, I made it, instead of like, I need to make the next thing, capitalism,
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's the difference between leaning into like that natural, like I need to create as part of my natural humanness versus like this desire to create so we can earn some value that is not real, that we already have.
Yeah, that you already have inside of you.
Yeah, like it's like doing the things that we're talking about are like fulfilling that natural value we have versus doing it to earn it. Maybe that's kind of like the difference, I think.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Like that. I would say for me, I generally... it's more work than it is life.
And that's why I get burnt out,
Not a lot of people get burnt out on life. I mean, they do, but, like nobody's like, I hung out with my friends too much and enjoyed the company of my family. It's just too much. But work, that's very true. Yeah.
It depends on what you're doing, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on who your family is. Love you, Mom. But I think that for me, it's definitely like work. Like that's where it's like, it's off balance because I put so much into making money, or the idea that I need to make money, or the idea that I need to make a podcast or clips or da-da-da-da-da. It's the amount of work that I guess I take on that. And
I would say it's very much like that. The capitalistic, like we pride ourselves on how much work we do, not how much rest we take, and I feel like that's the problematic part about it, is that like you're almost rewarded by your friend. Like if I told you I slept for 8 hours, or if I told you I worked for 8 hours, which one would you be impressed by?
I think sleep.
Because nobody gets 8 hours of sleep. But I mean, most people would probably be like, oh, you worked for 8 hours? Fucking dope.
It's because we're all old and tired and burned out though. So we're like, yes, sleep.
Yeah, sleep. You actually got 8 hours? I'm impressed.
If I was younger. If I was younger, I'd have been like, work, way more important. But now that I'm old, I'm all
8 hours, that's how long you're supposed to work. Fucking loser.
Yeah. I love getting 8 hours of sleep.
Yeah, no, actually, that was a really bad example. But but I mean, we don't.
I know what you mean. It's like if you were to be like, oh, I just released this album I've been working on for a long time, versus like, oh, I've been tracking my sleep over the last half a year and I averaged 7.7 hours.
Yeah.
One of those things might get more views.
And
listens and streams, and I am really looking forward to the next album.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it. You better not be getting 7 hours of sleep. That means you did make an album.
Chop, man. Come on.
Yeah, come on. Hey, we are waiting.
Fans don't care about your sleep.
No, they care more about the music, and that I understand. It's good music.
But that's an external motivation of like attention versus like your own like fulfillment, right? Because it's like when you wake up like a month after the album is completed, you're gonna feel like shit if you haven't slept for the whole prior year,
Yeah.
And then so even after that accomplishment, you're gonna just like not be in a good place, mentally, and your next album isn't gonna be as good.
I was gonna say you can't create as quality of art if you don't take time away from the art to have the balance and the rest to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, and I mean, even at the very least, like you can't even really enjoy it because it's like there's things that like I've won and that I've showed up to, and I'm like, oh, awesome, I'm accepting this thing, and it's like I'm so tired that like I can't even really appreciate it, because it's like everything else is going so wrong that like by the time I show up to the thing I should be happy about, I'm like so exhausted.
Yeah.
So well, awesome, Hewitt. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciated all the stuff that you had to share.
Yeah, it was nice talking with you.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Yeah. All right, well, we'll be right back with MamaFi. This is the Smoke Break. We're here every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. on Shady Pines Radio, as well as Pretty Dope Xperience Radio. Welcome back to the smoke break. We have MamaFi here, and she's going to do some songs for y'all. So I hope y'all enjoy.
Oh, hello. I was like, well, we got. All right. Baby, the sun is shining, and I've been trying to spend some time with you. I know you've heard this times before, but baby, rest assured I would join nothing more than to spend some time with you. Oh, please come with me. I will take you out to sea. Whatever it is that you would like to do, just tell me what you'd like, so I can do it right. Baby, it's just me and you. Being next to you is like a sky full of stars on a summer night. Being next to you just feels so right. I just wanna spend some time with you. That was an edited version of a song that I wrote. Then we're gonna do another song now. So, yeah. Pep talks in the morning, good meals through the days, letting them know if they mess up, I'll be okay. Bedtime stories and good night kisses. That is the kind of mom I'd like to be. Always lifting them up, never putting them down. I let them stand on their own, but if they need it, they know I'm around. I will always put them first. They'll know they're my blessing and not my curse. That's the kind of mom I like to be. That's the kind of mom I like to be. That's the kind of mom that I like to be. 'Cause that is the kind of mom I wish I had for me. Oh, that's the kind of mom I wish I had for me. That's the kind of mom I wish I had for me. Oh, thank you, thank you. All right, I think I got time for one more song. I think so. We're gonna do that. Lately I haven't been feeling like myself. It feels like I've been tried, just hanging on a shelf. It feels like I'm screaming, but no one seems to hear. Maybe it'd be better if I just disappear. Thank you.
That has been MamaFi. Thank you so much. We will be right back with the smoke break. We're here every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. on Shady Pines Radio. And we are back with the smoke break. MamaFi, thank you so much. That was amazing.
Yeah, your voice is beautiful.
Yeah. No, that was really great. So some topics that you wanted to talk about, resentment and accountability.
Yeah.
It's
been something that's been like on my mind a lot, especially like the past month, I want to say. I realized a shift in my feelings toward resentment after I started viewing it in a completely different perspective, where instead of viewing resentment as just like an icky feeling, because it is a really icky feeling, especially if you're not just feeling it for your loved ones, but for towards yourself.
Sure.
But it's the way I view it now is at least when it's in matters of another person, if I start to feel resentment towards them, I ask myself, are they showing an example of a part of me that I never got to bring to the surface, or that was shamed whenever I did try to? And like when I start to view it in that perspective, it's like now when I feel that feeling, I don't shame myself for it. I ask myself, well, what about this person am I actually like wishing I could encompass? You know?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like with me, for resentment, it's like, what am I not communicating?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I feel like oftentimes, like if I am getting resentful, it's because there's something I want to say that I'm not saying, and that, maybe I feel like I'm not safe to say. Yeah. So I
feel like a little checkpoint for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of have to check in with yourself and just be like, are they consciously, ignoring my boundaries, or have I not established one?
Yes.
So go please.
I was going to say, and that's where accountability comes in, where it's just like, it's not to say that there's always something you can be doing, because like you said, like, do I feel safe expressing my boundaries or setting these boundaries? But it's also like, was there a chance for me to communicate this? Or is this person, like you said, actually meaning what it may be coming off as?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and it's like you're being accountable to yourself by checking in with yourself about like what is behind those like strong feelings like resentment or whatever. So I think I see how that's like part of it too, kind of like.
Yeah, definitely. It
makes me think about jealousy too, though. Like, do you think of resentment and jealousy like as similar, or do they like intersect for you?
Honestly, I could see them being similar, because like it's when you think of jealousy, like that's like a direct like, oh, I wish like I could have that, like, oh, I'm so jealous of you, I wish I could do that. I feel like it's, if anything, a more like it's like you're more aware of the resentment, versus resentment is kind of like, I don't know what I'm feeling. I just don't like this.
Yeah. That makes sense. Because I was thinking
it's like a more dissected resentment.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because I was thinking, I was like, well, that's and that is how I when I'm jealous, I do usually realize it's something that I like, I wish I could have had, or something that like, didn't feel like it got to develop or whatever. But then, I was thinking it was resentment the solution? I'm like, no, because I feel like resentment's like when you haven't acknowledged that that's what you're doing.
Exactly.
But do you have any like, do you have any tools for like working through jealousy then? Like, I'm just curious.
Jealousy
or resentment, I guess, both.
I feel like this might sound silly because I just said that I feel like jealousy is the resentment that's more been identified, but I feel like it's easier for me to be able to navigate through resentment than jealousy, because I don't necessarily get jealous as much as I used to, which I think a lot of it is because I continuously practicing a lot of shadow work. Like, I'm not saying I don't ever get jealous, but when I do, it's like a blink of a moment, because I'm just like, you know what? This person may, we all are raised from like different, crops, so it's just like crops of life. So that being said, you don't know what got one person to where they are now.
Yeah.
So it's just like the way I've been able to view it is that I've had my moments to shine. Other people will have their moments to shine. And so it's like, we'll all get, what it is that we put in for the most part.
Yeah. So it's like, it's not a competition. Basically.
Exactly. And I feel like, some people say that, it's healthy to be jealous. And I think, to an extent it is. But I feel like if you're continuously jealous
other people or things and what have you, then it's just like you're really seeing everything through the lens of competition, and that's just not healthy for anyone, especially yourself.
No, and it doesn't feel good either.
Mm-hmm.
I hate feeling jealous.
How do you work through being resentful with yourself?
Oh yeah,
that's honestly something that I'm still working through, because as someone who's cut off a lot of like close people in my life, family included, whenever I try to think about like, well, maybe I should give them another chance, and I kind of sit with myself, well, what is it that I'm feeling that makes me want them back? Is it because I actually want to give them the benefit of the doubt, or is just there's something missing that they kind of filled? But then with every passing moment, I remember a random thing of when they did me, they made me feel, inadequate or what have you.
Sure.
And then there's that resentment. And a lot of times when I feel that way, sometimes it's hard for me to like, be like, you know what, you only knew then what you did not know now. Yeah. So you have to remind yourself, you know what, you did the best that you could with the tools that you had at the time. Mm-hmm. And instead of beating yourself over it, reminding myself, but instead of beating myself over the things that I literally cannot change from the past, I just take those tools and move forward with them. Yeah. So, and then also like being a musician, like that helps a lot too, as well as I write poetry. Okay. And so and now with comedy, I just kind of express my feelings in different creative outlets, depending on what it is I'm feeling.
Yeah. I feel like that's super healthy. Just being able to, like, the thing that I always say is like, there's certain things I don't want to joke about and certain things I don't want to make rhyme. So I
more than one way to express it. Yeah.
Especially because like one thing that I learned about like comedy, which has been interesting, is that I have a couple of jokes that like when I started doing them, like I really didn't like. I was like, yeah, no, I'm fine with talking about this, and then I realized the more I was doing it, the more I was like, wait. Am I fine with this?
Yeah, I haven't worked through this.
I never really talked about this with myself or with someone professional.
Yeah.
So, but it's still cool because it's kind of cathartic in a sense. You kind of get it all out.
Totally. I made the way you were talking about having more than one way of doing it. I think because comedy is kind of often like a kind of like in your face, kind of like a more intense way of expressing ourself. And then I feel like with music, like depending on what you do, but your music is very like soft, like at least the sound of it is very like soft and kind of soothing. Yeah. And so I think I like that you have, it makes sense to have more than one area because you have more than one side of you to like
I realized that thank you. Yeah. I realized when it comes to music, it's like I sing every single day. I absolutely love singing. And since I was like really little, like I never wanted to do anything like pursuing singing because that was just like my thing. That was the thing that calms me down, that stims me, what have you, or my form of stimming. But when it comes to comedy, I think that when I am doing comedy, I'm thinking, okay, well, obviously I'm sharing something here. Mm-hmm. And like, I want people to laugh, but sometimes, I like to make people a little uncomfortable by saying things that are real, that are happening to me, or, just like things that are, just life. Because I feel like, and in the times that I've, said some pretty dark jokes, I've still had at least a couple people be like, hey, I really appreciate you, kind of talking about that. Because this is not an easy thing for people to talk about. Yeah. You make it laughable, or at least a little bit more digestible, but like still leaves them thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I have a couple of jokes like that where I'm like, they're definitely not the jokes that get the most laughter, but I feel like they are usually the ones that have more of a message in them.
Yeah. Like well, and there's something that you connect with more. So I think like the amount that we connect with our art is important to make sure that we're always making sure that we're connected with our art. Otherwise, you do kind of become resentful at yourself because you're like, I have this amazing talent, but I'm not even using it for what I want to use it for.
Exactly. It's like you want to find that balance between using the opportunity to say what should be said or what you'd like to be said, but also making sure it's something that you want to say.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. So with resentment, how do you kind of check in with yourself and see if you're starting to feel resentment towards someone?
It's funny because it just kind of happens. I don't know how to say it. It's like, I think of, like That's So Raven when he goes that Zoom.
That's so funny.
That's literally what happens sometimes. Like an example would be like, I had a friend or whatever who was, they were kind of spending their money. They spent like a large amount of money on something that I know that I wouldn't have done. And like, that's their money. So like, I didn't, whatever, but I just realized, why is this affecting me the way that I did? And I felt that feeling of resentment. And I had like That's So Raven moment of like my dad being like mad because they like spent money like helping a friend, which I've done many times.
Sure.
And then flashback to my dad being like, oh, so you have money for your little friends, but you can't, spend money on like any bills. And mind you, I'm like in high school.
Yeah.
So it's just like, whoa, so that's where that came from.
Yeah.
And it's like when you realize, because a majority of like our intense feelings, like people are just scared to acknowledge them because they don't know how deep they go.
Sure.
It's like kind of like a cavity, you're scared. Like, what if I have to pull the tooth, or in this case, person out of my life because of just how deep that thing is.
Yeah. Well, I think that's funny that you bring that up, because there was a joke I was trying to run about like trauma being like a cavity, where it's just like one day you're like, something that normally was fine all of a sudden causes pain, and you're like, oh, I should get that looked at. And then 2 years later, you're just like, I can make it work. I just chew on the other side of my mouth.
Yes. And then you're just like, damn, but you're missing out on all of your like good food. Yeah.
You probably got some taste buds over there that aren't even getting the flavor.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you just have to ask yourself, is this really what I want for myself? Like, it just gets to the point when you're just like, I know I can do better and I deserve better. So why am I just going to keep, I feel really uncomfortable by people who are constantly being like, well, that's just who I am. It's like, but is that who you want to be?
Yeah. That's the real question though, for real.
Zane said that before. Like the people that say that often are people that are like, well, who you are is harmful. So that's why we're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, we can grow and change.
That's what I'm saying.
Please
Anyone who can like actually be like, I never want to be around people who are constantly like enabling me, or, not like anytime a friend like tells me, hey, so you may not have noticed this, but you did this and it made me feel this way. And I'm always like, thank you for telling me this. Because the thing is, you can't expect someone to just, well, I thought you could have told, you should have known. I was like, how should I have known if you didn't tell me?
And
now it's like, first of all, I'm not responsible for any of your emotional labor. If you're not communicating with me that there's a problem, then there's not a problem. Because we are grown adults. We have words. We can use them to the best of our abilities. I would do this thing. I do friendship check-ins, especially when I get to a more busier schedule with my close friends, where I'd be like, all right, so, I just want us to, check in with each other, like maybe once a month or so, and just be like, how are you doing? Anything new I should know? Is there anything bothering you that, I could be better about? And is there anything that, that we can be, mindful of to, nourish this relationship? Because I find that even if you're both busy and you're like, oh yeah, we just get like, we're busy. One person can be like, oh yeah, pick up where we left off, where the other one's like, what did I do? So it's just like the communication aspect is really big, and also helpful in matters of like resentment too. So
Well, I think that something that you were kind of like talking about is like your friends holding you accountable. And that's something that like I am so appreciative of. Like if your friends aren't holding you accountable, they don't care about you. You know, if they're not asking you to be better, then they're not your fucking friends.
Well, I think another aspect to it is that if they're not asking you to be better, I feel like it's in a way inadvertently them being like, see, then I don't have to challenge myself because I'm not challenging you.
It's like that misery loves company thing. Like sometimes if
look, we both suck.
It's like people aren't pushing you because they're not pushing themselves and they don't want to feel bad. But it really, like, we all could be lifting each other up.
Exactly. It's like there's nothing wrong with embracing change, but the thing is, the scariest part about change is the unknown.
Yeah, definitely. So you had brought up accountability. What role does accountability play in your life?
Oh my gosh, so much, because there was a quote that I saw online that said, if your healing process does not involve radical accountability and acceptance, then you're not on a healing path at all. You're on the path to what is it? Just resentment and just a victim complex. And I feel like obviously there are, like, am I allowed to swear? Am I?
Yeah, absolutely. No.
There's, like,
internet radio, baby.
Sometimes shit just happens. All right, shit just happens. But there's like, I feel like as someone who's like struggles with bipolar disorder, depression, OCD, and has had their share of suicidal attempts. I think I can honestly say there's still something that you can do. There's still a role that you can play in holding yourself accountable for like certain habits, and it can be scary because it goes back to that realization of once you acknowledge like, oh shit, I've been harmful. A factor of this. Like I could have changed this years ago or what have you. that's a really hard realization. And I've had that many times, and I still have that randomly when I'm, going through that whole That's So Raven moment of being like, when did I first feel this way? Because why am I so triggered? And then you go, oh my God, if I realized this then, I could have unraveled it's like pulling a loose piece of thread,
Yeah.
And that's scary for a lot of people. It's terrifying for me every time it happens. But like every time it does happen, then I feel like I'm a little bit more knowledgeable on how to handle it the next time it pops up.
Yeah, exactly. And I think almost just like handling things in a way where you have a belief that you become stronger by acknowledging one thing, the next thing that you're acknowledging becomes that much easier. Yeah. I think that's a really cool way of framing it.
Yeah. I like it.
Zoe, what are your thoughts on accountability?
I think it's really important. I think that's why I tend to be somebody who it's part of why I'm somebody who shares most of my that's probably also my neurodivergence, but I share a lot of my internal dialogue with people if they're around me. And I think part of that is accountability. Yeah, asking for accountability, and also if I'm repeating the same pattern, if I check, because I notice people that don't do that, it's they are less receptive to feedback, or they will take something that you do and then not, like you said, and then not tell you that how it hurt them, and then treat you as if you're intentionally hurting them when they haven't told you that you hurt them. And then and then I've had that happen a couple of times where I just feel so I think in that way I try to be really accountable, because I'm not perfect and I do have ADHD, and I often think and say and do things that I wish I could have said and done differently. So really the only way for me to be a good friend is to hold myself accountable for the things I don't want to.
You also, when you're in that position where someone may not, because again, you can also set boundaries, but just because you set boundaries and they in your head aren't that big of boundaries, you have to understand there's that possibility that they may not be able to meet those boundaries.
Yeah.
And also with what you were saying, it made me think of how when you're trying to talk to someone and you're actually trying to, be communicative, there's also a chance that, they're not, it's like you're hitting a wall, and you have to remind yourself, okay, well, you are already, you're very much comfortable with the narrative that you've already put in your head, and there's no conversation to be had because you aren't willing to hear my side.
Yeah. And I think, understanding that
even
with being accountable, you can't counteract somebody's story that they've committed to.
Yes.
Especially if it's about you. There's only so much you can do. All you can do is come with your authentic self and be like, hey, this is me. This was me in a moment. That's the best you can do. But beyond that, it's people have to receive it, and they don't even have to receive it. It's up to them to receive it.
Yeah. And I've used that phrase many times where it seems like you've committed to this narrative, so I don't see any point in us engaging it further in this conversation. I've used that many times.
I wish I would have said that to somebody recently.
Yeah, that's a really good phrase.
There have been times where it's I used to just beg, please just hear me out. You're not listening. And then I realized, you know what? Why am I going to beg for this person to hear me out when I have many other people who are, willing to be you know what, this doesn't seem like you. Yeah. Let's talk about this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even before it even gets to that point, then, me addressing a problem and being hey, I'm feeling, and making sure that when I am being this may not have been your intention, but when you did X, it made me feel Z. And I'd like to talk about it if you're open to it.
And they're like, why?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. That was dumb. No, it was dumb. It was dumb. I'm so sorry.
No, but
why? Why?
It's because you did the letter thing, though.
Why? Oh my God, I'm so slow. I just got it.
If you hang out with him long enough, you'll start to get it. But it takes me.
God,
it's because he does that constantly. He does it constantly.
Oh my God, you should be a comedian.
Have you ever tried stand up?
I'll try it.
What about music? You ever done that?
Well, maybe one of these days.
No, I'm telling you, he does it so often. He slips them in that my brain often misses them. I'm just getting better at it because I hang out with him a lot now.
Well, I told you, I just found out about the saying you can't have your cake and eat it too. I just realized that saying last night. I was like, oh my God, I get it now.
Oh, you mean you just figured out what it meant?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She knew what it meant. She didn't know why the fuck it was a saying, why it was a saying.
No, I didn't know what it meant. I just heard it. So I'd be like, okay, yeah. And then I was like, you know what? And then last night it just hit me. I was like, oh, because you can't have the cake and eat it.
Yeah. You can. It's one or the other. Yeah.
I'm slow.
No, you're all good. You're all good.
I just realized that maybe I've never thought about that either.
It's one that I've thought. I'm such a word person that I'm just why? How are you supposed to have a cake without eating it? Yeah. And it's well, you can have it, but at one point after you eat it, you don't. This is ridiculous.
It means both things can't be true. Is that basically what it means?
Yes, basically, yeah.
Okay.
But So yeah,
if you look a book horse in the face, what is that one?
You can't judge it, I think.
Isn't it something with like a gift horse?
Yes. Yeah. You can't judge a book by its cover or look a gift horse in the mouth.
I know. I feel like none of those things make any sense.
They're all weird. But what was I going to say? The thing I was going to say was, accountability.
Yeah.
I feel like the one of the more difficult things about accountability is being able to create a space where somebody can feel like it's okay for them to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how would you feel like is the best way to open up that conversation?
Oh, I feel like just being transparent with another individual and being, letting them know that it's important for them to feel safe around you, and asking if you feel like,
they have space.
Yeah. Asking for if they have space always before, emotionally dumping or sharing something that could be emotionally charged. Me personally, I like to do the check-ins, but also say, hey, if I ever do anything that makes you feel uncomfortable, it doesn't matter my intention. It matters its impact. And it's important for you to let me know, because if you don't let me know, I won't know. And I don't want any resentment to form.
Yeah. Well, and even something you said a second ago about like, I know this may not have been your intent, like assuming positive intent is something that we don't often do. Like if somebody, and it's something that I'm guilty of. Yeah, exactly. You're telling me. But like, I feel like I assume negative intent with other people, especially because I have paranoia. And it's just like to assume that somebody is trying to be harmful as my first, as the first place that I arrive at, like isn't giving
especially
people.
Especially if that's tied to trauma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well,
it usually is. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's even harder to separate because you're like, I remember this one time where somebody was trying to be intentionally harmful.
Yeah.
How do I know that's not you right now?
And then also if you're someone who was kind of like a little bit more on the oblivious side, or like, I want to say gullible, but for lack of a better word, let's just
like overly trusting or something.
Yeah, overly trusting. And so it's like when you're someone who's like overly trusting and you got let down over and over again, and then now you're just trying to be like protective of yourself.
Yeah.
But it manifests in a different way where you're just assuming the worst, and it's hard.
Yeah. No, that reminds me of like when you're trying to have boundaries for the first time and they come across really harsh.
The first time I tried setting like boundaries with a close friend of mine, I literally was sobbing and I was like over FaceTime. I'm like, hey, so I've been feeling this way, and I was just wondering if maybe you could be more mindful. And I'm just like trying to look back. And she's like, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. She's like, I care about this friendship.
Exactly.
Like, you shouldn't have to be worried about bringing anything up to me if it's bothering you.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh. And then the more I started to practice it with my other friends, the more it's like, I'm like, all right, now I'm just like trying to make sure I don't get too comfortable to the point where I'm just like cutting people off like cold turkey. I'm just like,
yeah.
Because like communities is essential. It's not like just like, you could have community. It's like it's essential. I feel like, and it should extend further than just like, family or like, friends within proximity. I feel like that's why it's important to have like hobbies or things that you just do, your, groups, what have you, because you have people of a shared interest, and it feels like when you contribute toward that thing, that goal or what have you, it's like you're part of something.
No, I agree. I think community is like an essential part of our mental health and our well-being, is like contributing to something that other people that we care about get to benefit from or experience.
Yeah.
Is like, I think that's part of our like natural human nature, like we were talking about with Hewitt. I agree, I think.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect. Well,
and that's how we all met each other, which is super cute, right?
Yeah. Thanks, comedy and community.
We're talking about us, basically.
We get to have the cake and eat.
Yeah,
that's right. God damn it. Well, that has been perfect. The smoke break. That has been the smoke break. We're here every Sunday from 9 to 10 a.m. on Shady Pines Radio. MamaFi, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
I have been Zane. This has been Zoe.
I'm Zoe.
This has been MamaFi. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Dab on them.